I am unwell. Like, I am literally physically unwell right now. I need a personal injury lawyer because the television I just consumed has caused me irreversible emotional damage.
Oh, I know. I checked my pulse twice during the episode. I am not even joking.
Right. Because we are watching teenagers orchestrate scorched earth corporate mergers with their literal bodies.
Yeah.
And they are casually negotiating with heavily armed cartels. And my nervous system is it is completely fried. I am vibrating with anxiety.
It wasn't even television. It was a psychological endurance test. Like, we are watching a universe where trauma is the only actual currency. I genuinely had to pause the episode twice just to check my vitals. This week required a blood pressure monitor and a weighted blanket.
And a mild sedative. But, we are surviving together. So, welcome back to the Snark Side, babes. If you're a returning Snarker, welcome back, babes. We love you.
We love you so much.
And, babes, if you are new here, go ahead and hit subscribe because, babes, we are your people. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, if you can even call clinking glassware full of tap water a proper cheer.
Okay, wait. Speaking of the tap water, I do need to announce to the Snark Squad right now that we are officially taking a liver break.
We are. It is a very tragic, temporary loss of cocktails, and I am actively in mourning.
But tonight we are drinking water with a lemon wedge in it. And honestly, babes, I need to romanticize this for a second because adding this tiny, pathetic little citrus wedge to my ice water is making me feel weirdly classy.
It is the absolute delusion of the healthy girl aesthetic.
No, but I feel superior. Like, I feel like my skin is already clearing up, my credit score is rising, and I am emotionally committing to this entire new wellness culture. I am firmly in my hydration era.
See, what is fascinating here is how one single, microscopic, healthy decision, like literally just drinking the clear liquid required for basic human survival, suddenly makes you think you are Gwyneth Paltrow.
I mean, I kind of am right now.
You are sitting there acting like you are about to launch a lifestyle brand and sell $50 organic loofahs. It is hilarious how one healthy decision suddenly makes us feel intellectually and morally superior to everyone else on the internet.
I would absolutely buy that organic loofah if it matched my bathroom aesthetic. Let's just be real about that.
Yeah.
But the lemon just gives it a vibe.
Yeah.
It gives me the illusion of having my life together, which I desperately need right now because the weather is actively trying to destroy my mental health. Snark Squad. We desperately need real summer weather to begin.
Oh my God, the climate is orchestrating a personal attack against us. It is completely ruining hot girl season.
It changes every 5 minutes.
Literally every 5 minutes. You walk outside, it is a humid swamp. 10 minutes later, it is a torrential downpour.
Why does this month somehow feel like a gloomy, oppressive fall instead of summer? It is disrespectful.
It is emotional manipulation is what it is. The random hot days are just teasing us. And I am emotionally ready for summer romance energy. I want rooftop drinks.
Yes.
I want pool season energy. I have so many cute summer outfits that are literally gathering dust in my closet while I sit here in a hoodie watching the nonstop rain. It is devastating. We're just trapped indoors, spiraling. Well, the claustrophobia of this weather perfectly mirrors the absolute chaos of our current social calendar. Because on one hand, we are sitting in hoodies, drinking tap water like we're in a survival bunker. But on the other hand, we really need to talk about the gala.
Oh my gosh, the gala delusion era. Babes, we need to discuss galas for a second. Remind the Snark Squad, before we went camping, we casually mentioned that we got invited to a fancy, legitimate gala.
Right.
And babes, we are still spiraling about it, fully, utterly panicking.
I am in sheer snarky shock that anyone, anywhere actually invited the two of us to something fancy. Like, it feels like a clerical error.
Same.
I keep waiting for the email that says, apologies, we meant to invite 2 actual adults with decorum.
Well, I am fully embracing the rich girl fantasy, okay?
Yeah.
I am wondering if we have finally entered our rich girl era. This is our soft girl evolution. I have literally been standing in my bathroom mirror, practicing my sophisticated, elegant laugh.
Please tell me you are joking.
I am not. I am trying to figure out what dresses to wear, how to exude that quiet luxury fancy people energy, and how to hold a champagne flute dramatically without looking like a reality TV star who is calculating the exact right moment to throw it in someone's face.
That is the problem, though. You can put us in gowns, you can hand us expensive champagne, but we will inevitably be networking with elegant, wealthy people while internally panicking and trying to hide our messy reality.
We really will.
You know the reality TV energy is going to leak out. We're going to be discussing the stock market and then accidentally transition into screaming about teen trauma. We cannot hide who we are.
Which perfectly transitions us to the actual trauma of the week. Because, babes, This season of Euphoria has been absolutely insane.
Insane does not even cover the structural damage this show is doing to our collective psyche.
I am emotionally devastated by everyone's choices. I need you all to think about the last time you watched a show this chaotic. The emotional chaos, the drama, the cinematography, the sheer panic of the relationships, the pure stress this show creates is on a completely different level.
I found myself analyzing the chaos like a documentary narrator studying a doomed species.
Yeah.
You really have to ask if any other teen drama in history even compares to this level of cultural unhingedness.
No, absolutely not.
Every single episode feels like running an emotional marathon through a minefield. You cross the finish line, exhausted, dehydrated, and questioning humanity.
We have to get right into the recap. And Bates, we have to start with the emotional core of this episode, which was Ollie's heartbreaking backstory. Coleman Domingo finally getting a spotlight episode.
It was so long overdue and beautifully, tragically executed. This is where the show drops the hyper-stylized teen drama aesthetic and forces you to look at the brutal generational mechanics of addiction.
It totally shattered me. We start with this opening flashback, and it is just so viscerally raw. Ali is smoking crack in this dingy, claustrophobic motel room. And Babes, the sex worker he is with, is Natasha Lyonne.
A Natasha Lyonne cameo out of nowhere.
Literally out of nowhere. And she's wearing a wrist brace, she's cracking jokes with that amazing raspy voice of hers, but the juxtaposition of her natural comedic energy with the incredibly dark reality of this drug den is chilling.
It really is.
And then we see Ali go home completely high, cheating on his wife, and it escalates into this horrifying screaming match right in front of his two young daughters.
Yeah.
The emotional damage of that scene, you can just feel the trauma embedding itself into those kids' DNA in real time.
It is brutal, but it establishes the stakes, right? It shows you the monster Ali was, which is completely necessary to understand the saint he is trying to be now. What's fascinating here is the analytical turning point the show gives him. It is not just a generic hitting rock bottom moment.
Right, the hospital scene.
Exactly. Ollie wakes up in a hospital bed. We do not see the exact circumstances of the medical emergency, but we see the aftermath. He has this massive, visceral, Frankenstein-like scar running straight down his sternum from major open-heart surgery.
Oh my God, the visual of that scar. It literally looks like his chest was ripped completely open.
Metaphorically and literally, his heart was exposed. And the nurse comes in and offers him morphine for the excruciating pain, and he refuses it.
I gasped.
Think about the psychological fortitude that takes. That refusal is the exact moment his life pivots. He dedicates his entire existence from that second forward to NA sponsorship, trying to turn his horrific, unforgivable mistakes into a roadmap for others to survive.
And here is where it gets so incredibly heavy. They show the pandemic years in the timeline of the show. We see Ali trying to sponsor people over Zoom, the isolation of it all. He could not physically be there to pull people back from the edge.
Yeah, the Zoom meetings were so bleak.
And he literally kept a book of the dead. This heartbreaking, worn notebook where he recorded the names and dates of his sponsees who did not survive the isolation of the lockdown.
Yeah.
The physical weight of that book when he holds it, I was fully sobbing.
It adds such a profound, devastating layer to his relationship with Rue. Like, if you connect this to the bigger picture, Ollie's entire life purpose, his entire reason for surviving that chest surgery, is saving addicts who are just like he used to be.
Yeah, he just wants to help her.
He is trying to balance the cosmic scales. He tells Rue he loves her. He tells her the only reason he is still on this earth is to do some good. He is offering her absolute, unconditional grace.
What does she do with that grace? Like, the tragic irony of it all. Rue leaves him a crumpled Post-it note on the television that just says, "Forgive me," and sneaks out in the middle of the night to go do a cartel job anyway.
Exactly.
She walks away from the one person holding a lifeline and sprints back toward the fire.
Because she does not think she deserves the lifeline. That is the psychology of it. When someone offers you pure grace, but your internal self-worth is zero, you reject the grace because accepting it means you have to actually change.
It made me want to scream. Rue is an absolute delusion right now.
Yeah.
The mental gymnastics she's doing to justify this cartel job. She literally thinks God spoke to her through a burning Joshua tree out in the desert.
It is so absurd.
She is convinced she's being led to the promised land, which in her mind is that weird homestead in El Paso, Texas from the very first episode. She thinks she's literally Moses.
The audacity of Rue Bennett knows no bounds. It really does not. She is quoting scripture, interpreting endangered burning vegetation as a divine text message.
Text message from God.
This is a classic hallmark of grandiose delusions and addiction, you know? The belief that your suffering is so unique, so profound, that it requires divine intervention and epic quests to cure, rather than just doing the hard, boring work of going to meetings and staying sober. I loved Ollie's brilliant reality check to her, though.
Ali is the only one who can cut through her nonsense.
He really is. He sits there, listens to her entire biblical delusion, and then very calmly, methodically points out a historical fact. He says, Moses did not actually make it to the Promised Land. He led everyone else there, but he died in the desert. It is a chilling foreshadowing for Rue's trajectory.
Okay, but I have to push back here. I do not think Rue is just being arrogant or completely delusional to avoid work. I think she is carrying so much guilt, so much intense self-hatred for what she has put her mother and Gia through that she is desperately looking for a massive act of redemption to undo her past evil.
You think this is redemption?
Well, in her mind. She feels like if she takes down Lori and Alamo, these massive, terrifying cartel figures, it wipes the slate clean. She wants to be a hero because she cannot live with being the villain anymore.
I hear what you are saying about guilt, but look at how she is executing this so-called redemption. It is entirely selfish. Her version of redemption is going over to Lexi's house, Lexi, who is just trying to live a normal life and write a script for LA Nights, and casually dumping the most insane radioactive trauma on her.
Oh my God, the bedroom scene.
Rue sits on her bed and tells Lexi, oh, by the way, I am working as a double agent for the DEA, a faction of neo-Nazis and a cartel boss. You do not do that to protect people. You do that to drag them into your chaos.
Lexi's reaction was absolute perfection, though. She was savage.
Because she has to be. Lexi represents the audience in that moment. Rue drops this cinematic action movie plot line on her, and Lexi literally laughs in her face because it sounds completely absurd.
Lexi accuses her of using drugs again, which is honestly the most logical conclusion when your friend says they are working for the DEA. And then Lexi drops the most brutal, devastating line of the entire season.
Oh, so good.
She looks Rue dead in the eye and says, no wonder your mom does not talk to you anymore.
It is the ultimate weaponization of the truth. Lexi is just exhausted. She is done being the collateral damage in everyone else's drama.
I gasped. I was practically clutching pearls. But honestly, Lexi is dealing with her own massive family chaos, mostly because of Cassie. We need to pivot to Cassie because I am screaming at my television over her terrifying situation.
Cassie is an absolute freefall, and she is taking everyone down with her.
She really is.
The domino effect of Cassie's choices is truly a masterclass in self-destruction and the commodification of the self. Think about the sequence of events here.
Right, so she deleted her OnlyFans account on the advice of Patty Lance because she wanted to be viewed as a serious actress. But then Patty fires her from the show LA Nights anyway.
The absolute hypocrisy of Hollywood.
Yes. The network did not want the controversy of having a real sex worker on their family-friendly drama. And the sickest, most twisted part, Lexi was the one who happily delivered the news and fired her own sister.
It is a vicious cycle of betrayal. Lexi chose her career over her sister, validating the network's puritanical hypocrisy. But because Cassie deleted her OnlyFans, which was her only source of actual leverage and income, the consequences ripple outward instantly.
It ruins Maddy, too.
Exactly. Maddy, who represents Cassie, gets fired by Mrs. Penzler for misrepresenting the agency by sending Cassie in the first place, which leads to that incredibly uncomfortable, violent confrontation scene between the two best friends.
Oh my God. When Maddy finds Cassie sobbing on the floor of the agency, you think Maddy is going to hug her because they have so much history? Instead, Maddy slaps Cassie across the face so hard it echoed.
It was a brutal slap.
And she delivers that ice-cold line, I am your boss, bitch.
It is the complete death of their friendship, replaced entirely by a transactional power dynamic. Maddy does not see a friend in pain. She sees a broken asset that just cost her money.
And from there, Cassie hatches the most unhinged, diabolical scheme to get her followers back. She is desperate. She needs money to save Nate. So what does she do? She treats her own life like a scorched earth PR campaign.
It is terrifying to watch.
She takes Dylan Reed, the pristine, beloved heartthrob from LA Nights, on a very public paparazzi date. She makes sure they are photographed by the press.
She is weaponizing his wholesome image to launder her own reputation. It is pure, calculated sociopathy.
She takes him back to her apartment. She seduces him while Sex and Candy by Marcy Playground is playing in the background, which is just such a specific, chaotic, deeply 90s grunge choice for a seduction scene.
It really set the weirdest tone.
It did. And she gets him drunk, sleeps with him, and then while he's passed out, she physically steals his phone passcode by watching his finger movements in the reflection of a mirror.
It is literal espionage.
She logs into his Instagram, which has millions of followers, posts a selfie of the two of them in bed, captions it "world's greatest feck," and tags herself.
Unbelievable.
It is brilliant, it is evil, it is messy. She literally hijacked his entire PR machine to force her OnlyFans subscribers to come back out of sheer curiosity.
It is peak reality TV behavior, which I actually respect on a strategic level. She liquidated her dignity and his reputation to acquire social capital. But the director juxtaposes this entire slick, Hollywood-style PR sequence with the most horrifying, absurd visual of the entire series.
I know exactly what you're going to say, and my stomach is churning just thinking about it.
Dylan Reed wakes up from his stupor. He is thirsty. He stumbles into Cassie's kitchen to grab a post-coital glass of ice water.
Do not remind me.
The cinematography here is brilliant. All these tight shots, emphasizing the mundane nature of what he is doing. He scoops some ice out of the freezer, pours his tap water, and takes a sip. He is completely blissfully oblivious to the fact that Nate Jacobs' severed frozen finger is literally floating in his drinking glass.
I screamed, I yelled at the screen. I was like, Dylan, look at your water, look at the ice.
It was so morbidly funny, but also deeply disturbing.
The sheer panic of knowing that finger was just chilling next to the ice cubes, literally bobbing against his lip.
It is Hitchcockian suspense mixed with grotesque dark comedy. It highlights the absolute absurdity of Cassie's situation. Like, she is trying to play the superficial Hollywood fame game, worrying about Instagram tags and followers, while literal cartel body parts are sitting in her kitchen appliances. It shows how out of her depth she really is.
Because Naz, the Armenian mobster, is not playing PR games. He is playing blood games. He calls Cassie. He demands $1 million in 72 hours. And to make sure she understands the gravity of the stakes, his massive goon Ardor shows up, knocks Cassie out cold in her own hallway, and hogties her to her own bed.
Which forces Maddy into a desperate, extremely dangerous corner. To save her friend, and let's be real, her money tree, as she calls Cassie, Maddy has to bypass the Hollywood games and go straight to the underworld. She has to go to Alamo for the money.
Oh, babes, this scene, Maddy having to go to Alamo's house, I was crawling out of my skin. The psychological warfare Alamo plays is terrifying. He does not just hand over the money.
No, he makes it a whole ritual.
He makes Maddy put on this specific, highly symbolic Virgin Mary one-piece bathing suit that he specifically picked out for her. He makes her get into his hot tub with his creepy yellow-eyed panther statue lurking in the background just to ask for the cash.
Explain why he does that, though. It is not just to be creepy, it is a deliberate stripping of her power.
Right.
Maddy walked in there thinking she was a boss, a modern-day madam who pulls the strings. Alamo forces her into a bathing suit featuring the ultimate symbol of purity and submission, the Virgin Mary, to remind her that in his house, she is absolutely powerless. He's breaking her ego before they even discuss numbers.
The power dynamic was suffocating. And in her desperation and panic, trying to navigate this hot tub negotiation, she makes a fatal slip of the tongue.
The worst mistake she could make.
She casually mentions to Alamo, a literal cartel kingpin, that Rue is acting crazy and ranting about the DEA. Maddy, you cannot just throw the acronym DEA around a drug lord.
It is the most dangerous sentence she could have possibly uttered. Notice how Alamo reacts, though. He does not flinch. He does not yell. The camera just pushes in slightly on his face, and you can see the absolute cold calculus happening behind his eyes.
Yeah, he knew right away.
He knows immediately that Rue is a catastrophic liability, but he calculates the risk, and he agrees to help Maddy anyway, which leads to that brutal business transaction at the drop site.
The drop site. Okay, set the scene for the listeners.
Yeah.
They are at the failed Sun Settlers construction site, right near those white flowers, which is so haunting. Alamo shows up with Maddy to pay off Naz.
Right, the handoff.
But Alamo tosses the duffel bag, and it is empty. And before Naz can even process what is happening, Alamo just raises his gun and shoots Naz dead, right in the throat. No hesitation.
It is cold, calculated, and terrifyingly efficient. This is the difference between street thugs and cartel bosses. Alamo takes the gun from Ardor, spares his life to send a message to the rest of the gang, and then turns his attention back to Maddy.
He didn't even break a sweat.
He did not lose a single dime in this transaction. He did not give Naz the $1 million. But he looks at Maddy, who is covered in Naz's blood, and ruthlessly tells her that because he solved her problem, he now owns 20% of her. And Cassie's future earnings forever, a steep price to pay for friendship, he tells her.
My jaw was on the floor. Maddy essentially sold herself and Cassie into indentured servitude to a cartel boss, all to save a friend she had just slapped the day before.
She mortgaged their entire futures to survive the next 5 minutes. It is the ultimate manifestation of trauma as currency.
And all of this bloodshed, this extortion, Cassie prostituting herself out to Dylan Reed, Maddy selling her soul to Alamo, it was all to save Nate Jacobs.
Oh, Nate.
And babes, we have to talk about the death. Prepare yourselves, Snark Squad, because this was the most insane, visually traumatizing death on television.
Nate Jacobs getting exactly what he deserved, but in the most excruciating, psychologically damaging way possible.
Naz had buried Nate alive. He put him in a custom 6'5" wooden coffin and buried him under the dirt of his own failed real estate development, leaving just a tiny PVC pipe sticking out of the ground for air. He had 72 hours before he died of dehydration.
Let's break down the mechanics of what the creator is doing to the audience here. He gave an interview where he discussed the twisted logic behind the scene. He knew the audience wanted Nate Jacobs to face karma.
We all wanted it.
Nate has been a controlling, abusive, manipulative monster for 3 seasons. We wanted him punished, but the director decided to weaponize our desire for vengeance.
He really did.
He wanted to make the execution so deeply anxiety-inducing, using a technique called phobia stacking, combining claustrophobia, taphophobia, which is the fear of being buried alive, the sensory deprivation of the dark, and finally, introducing a venomous reptile that by the time Nate actually dies, the audience isn't cheering. We feel physically sick watching it. He forces us to empathize with a monster.
He absolutely succeeded. My skin is still crawling. Because it wasn't the dehydration that killed him. It was a literal rattlesnake.
The snake was brilliant.
A snake slithers across the dirt above ground, senses the vibrations of Nate screaming and crying down the air pipe, and slithers straight down the PVC pipe into the pitch-black coffin with him.
The sheer terror of hearing the rattle echo down that plastic pipe before you even see the snake, it is masterclass horror suspense. And the behind-the-scenes shade of this is actually fascinating.
Oh, wait, tell me.
Jacob Elordi, who plays Nate, actually filmed the interior coffin scenes with a very sleepy, docile boa constrictor that had a fake rattle attached to its tail because it was safer for the actor. But those exterior shots of the snake going down the pipe, that was a real, live, highly venomous rattlesnake.
Jacob Elordi said in an interview the boa was actually super cuddly, but there's absolutely nothing cuddly about the final result on screen. When Arter finally uses the backhoe to dig up the coffin, oh my God. The visual.
Grotesque is the only word for it. It is a horror painting.
They open the lid, and Cassie and Maddy look down into the dirt, and Nate's corpse is bloated. The venom has completely necrotized his face, turning it purple and black. His tongue is swollen and hanging out of his mouth, and the snake is just sitting right on his chest, coiled up, hissing at them. It is absolute nightmare fuel.
Which raises an important question, and I want you, the listener, to really think about this. Was this a fitting end for Nate Jacobs? Think about who Nate was as a character.
He is a sociopath.
He was defined entirely by his aggressive, meticulous control over everyone around him. He manipulated Jules, he abused Maddy, he destroyed Tyler, he thought he was the architect of everyone's reality. And how does he die? Reduced to total, pathetic helplessness in a dark box, killed by a random, uncontrollable act of nature.
That is so true.
He overestimated his own power, played in a criminal underworld he didn't understand, and got swallowed whole by it. I argue it was perfectly mathematically poetic.
It was poetic, but it was so nasty. I felt bad for him for exactly 3 seconds when he was crying in the dark. And then I remember the cycle of abuse he perpetuated, and I was like, okay, the snake did what it had to do to protect the rest of the characters.
The snake was the real hero.
But babes, we can't even process Nate's poetic demise because the episode immediately throws us into Rue's terrifying cliffhanger at the Nazi compound.
The stress simply never stops. Rue's survival instincts are completely warped at this point. She has lost all sense of self-preservation.
She goes back to Laurie's farm to confront Wayne and Faye. And to make her story convincing that Alamo tried to kill her for being loyal to their faction, she literally smashes her own face against G's dashboard before walking inside.
So unhinged.
She gives herself a concussion just to sell the lie. And then when she gets inside, she makes a deal with Wayne to personally assassinate Alamo. And to seal this blood pact, Wayne takes a hunting knife and slices Rue's palm wide open.
It is a terrifying dynamic, specifically because of how it isolates Faye. Wayne tells Faye that he does not actually trust Rue. He demands that Faye be the one to execute Rue when the time is right.
Oh, what he called her.
The language he uses is chilling. He compares Rue to a Nazi puppy. This is a historical reference to how SS soldiers in training were forced to raise German Shepherd puppies from birth, bond with them, and then snap their necks to prove their absolute emotionless loyalty to the regime. Wayne is telling Faye to put Rue down like a dog to prove her loyalty to him. He is grooming her through forced trauma.
But Faye is finally waking up to the fact that her boyfriend is a literal monster who views her as a weapon, not a partner. So in the middle of the night, Faye makes her move. She sneaks into Rue's room. They whisper in the dark and decide they are going to rob Wayne's massive floor safe, take the $1 million that was stolen from Alamo's club, and run away to start over.
It is the classic heist trope, but layered with unbearable tension because these are completely untrained amateurs in a house full of professional killers.
They try to use Faye's 3D printed plastic key on the safe, but it snaps in the lock. It fails.
I was sweating.
So Faye has to creep into the master bedroom where Wayne is passed out drunk with a loaded gun on his chest and physically steal the jangly metal keys right off his nightstand. Every time the keys jingled, my heart was pounding completely out of my chest.
The auditory suspense of those keys. But then comes the twist that changes everything about the season's endgame and shifts the entire genre of the show.
Oh my God, yes.
They get the safe open. They are expecting stacks of cash, the $1 million that kicked off this entire cartel war.
But there is no money. The safe is just full of files. And Rue pulls out stacks and stacks of young girls' driver's licenses. And right on top, staring us in the face, is the ID for Angel, the missing stripper from the very first episode of the season.
Which is the horrifying confirmation of what Alamo's true business actually is. He isn't just running nightclubs or dealing drugs. He is trafficking and murdering these girls.
That's so dark.
That was the valuable item that Nas stole from his safe, not cash. It was the physical evidence of his human trafficking ring. Alamo does not traffic in narcotics. He traffics in human lives.
And Faye just absolutely loses her mind. She has a complete psychological meltdown right there in the basement. She feels so incredibly betrayed because there is no money to escape with, and she thinks Rue lied to her to use her.
She panics.
So Faye stands there, takes a deep breath, and screams Wayne's name at the absolute top of her lungs. She wakes up the entire house of heavily armed, murderous neo-Nazis, leaving Rue trapped in the ultimate lion's den. And then the screen just goes black.
End of episode. Unbelievable execution of suspense.
I was yelling at my TV. I was like, Faye, what are you doing? Okay, we need to take a breath. Take a sip of your classy lemon water, babes.
Okay, we need to process the psychology of this with our segments. Segment 1, most unhinged character energy.
There are so many contenders this week for who is spiraling the hardest. I have to nominate Cassie. I am sorry. But treating your own body like a corporate asset, pimping yourself out to a CW actor, stealing his passcode while he sleeps, and intentionally destroying his pristine PR image just to regain OnlyFans subscribers, all while your husband's severed frozen finger is literally chilling in a drinking glass in your kitchen sink.
It is a lot.
That is peak unhinged. That is a level of disassociation from reality that requires immediate, intense medical intervention.
I hear your argument on Cassie, and the PR stunt was totally sociopathic, but I have to push back. I nominate Rue.
Really? Rue over Cassie?
Yes. She is casually walking around town, sitting on floral bedspreads, telling everyone she knows, including her aspiring playwright friend, that she is a federal informant for the DEA working undercover with 2 rival, heavily armed cartels. Who does that?
Oh, yeah.
It is not just a spy role, it is an active death wish. Or honestly, we have to look at Faye. Screaming and waking up a heavily armed cartel boss just because you were annoyed that the safe did not have cash in it? That is the definition of unhinged. You do not throw a temper tantrum in the middle of a hostage situation.
Okay, fair point. They're all deeply unwell. Let's move to segment 2. Could we survive Euphoria High School? Honestly, no. But here is exactly how I would go out.
Please tell me.
I confess, I would probably get emotionally attached to the absolute worst, most toxic person in that school. I would try to fix a boy who is actively committing state and federal felonies, and I would ruin my own life within a week trying to be his savior.
I absolutely would.
I would be holding someone's illicit drugs in my locker just because they told me my lip gloss looked pretty in homeroom. I would be a cautionary tale.
Well, I would not last 24 hours in that ecosystem, but for entirely different reasons. The sheer volume of criminal activity is one thing, but the emotional manipulation, The complete and utter lack of basic homework being done.
Nobody does homework on that show.
Exactly. I would be so incredibly stressed out by the fact that no one is studying for the SATs while simultaneously laundering cartel money in the boys' bathroom. The academic negligence would break me. I would force my parents to let me transfer to a normal, boring suburban school immediately. I cannot deal with locker room extortion before third period calculus.
You would absolutely be the one writing an anonymous, neatly typed tip to the principal.
I would.
Okay, segment 3. Soft girl gala preparations. Let's pivot back to our gala delusion. Babes, the sheer logistics of attending a real elegant gala are terrifying me. What dresses do we even buy? Do we go full sequin? Velvet.
I think velvet is too heavy for this season.
Right, but I am trying to perfect this soft girl elegant aesthetic, but I have reality TV in my blood. How do I hold a champagne flute and mingle with old money without looking like I'm about to hurl it across a banquet hall at someone who insulted my outfit?
Yeah. You can't. That is the beauty and the tragedy of our existence. We can buy the most expensive dresses, we can practice our posture in the mirror, but the reality TV energy will leak out the second we have one glass of champagne.
The second we have one sip.
I am already panicking about having to make small talk with rich philanthropists. What do we even talk about? My main hobby right now is intensely analyzing the trauma of fictional teenagers on HBO. I am going to end up cornering some wealthy CEO near the hors d'oeuvres and screaming at him about how Nate Jacobs deserved the rattlesnake because of the cycle of patriarchal violence.
I would pay actual money to see that interaction. Finally, segment 4, healthy girl delusions, tying it all back to the lemon water.
Aves, we need to discuss the ridiculous things we suddenly do after one healthy decision.
It's embarrassing.
Why is it that after drinking one glass of water, my brain immediately thinks I'm an Olympic athlete? I drank one glass of lemon water today, and I caught myself looking up luxury Pilates retreats in Bali on my phone. I started pretending I suddenly do not crave spicy chips. I am a complete fraud. It is a predictable psychological cycle. I can predict the exact life cycle of our hydration era right now. Let's break it down for the listeners.
Okay, do it.
Day 1, lemon water and a massive superiority complex. Day 2, buying a ridiculously expensive matching pastel workout set that we will never actually sweat in.
I already put one in my cart.
Day 3, the cracks begin to show. We look at a piece of steamed broccoli with deep simmering resentment. By day 4, exactly 96 hours from now, the delusion breaks. We will be right back on this couch, drinking heavy red wine, eating chaotic, neon-colored artificial snacks, and screaming at our television. It is the inevitable reversion to our true nature.
You are right, and I hate it, but I love it. Babes, thank you to the Snark Squad for hanging out and surviving the immense emotional damage of this episode with us. We literally could not process this mess without you.
We really couldn't, and we want to hear from you. We want you to answer 4 specific questions in the comments. Number 1, what show do you think is actually crazier than Euphoria right now? Number 2, is our lemon water era classy or completely delusional?
Delusional. But let them answer.
Number 3, what would you wear to a fancy gala to hide your messy reality? And number 4, are you currently in your soft girl era, or are you just surviving day by day?
Let us know your thoughts. And babes, do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share the podcast with your messiest bestie so they can spiral with us.
And before we go, I want you to think about the IDs in that safe. We have spent this entire time obsessing over characters desperately trying to find redemption or survive their own mistakes. Rue, Ali, Maddy, Cassie. But Alamo's safe reminds us that in this universe, innocence isn't just lost. It's cataloged, locked away, and commodified. As we head into the finale, you have to ask yourself, is redemption even possible in a world where trauma is the primary currency?
Stay hydrated, stay messy, and we will see you on the Snark side.